I've always known there's a very strong connection between effort and reward. The harder I work for something, the more I enjoy it when I finally complete the task. Driving the Pan American Highway and driving all the way around Africa were easily the hardest things I've ever done in my life, but they were also the most rewarding. So there's definitely something to be said for putting in a lot of effort to get a great reward. I don't know why, but I've always been drawn to wilderness hot springs. Something about the allure of soaking while in the wilderness has me captivated, and I'm willing to go to great lengths to find these hot springs, especially ones that maybe don't even exist. I drove late into the night and camped on the side of the road before getting up early and continuing on. As soon as I see the views, I'm really glad that I did. I turn off the main road and immediately climb an extremely steep, abandoned logging road. I'm in first gear low range here and the Jeep is working hard. Of course, the camera never does it justice. It doesn't look nearly as steep or narrow on the camera as it did in real life. The forest here is extremely dense and absolutely beautiful, and though I'm nowhere near the coast, I can't help thinking I'm on Vancouver Island or somewhere on the Pacific Northwest coast. I designed and built my Jeep for long-term touring around Africa, and here in the dense forest on this steep logging road, there's no doubt it wasn't designed for this purpose. I feel a little bit sketchy in the narrower sections, and I have to keep a close eye in the mirrors to make sure the top of the hardtop doesn't hit any of the fallen trees or the rocky section when the trail gets really narrow. There's also no doubt that the immense weight of all of my living systems works against me when I'm trying to climb a mountain like this. While I did get in a few mountains in Africa, nothing was as steep as this, and I'm guessing the grade here is around 20%. This logging road is abandoned, or deactivated in logging speak, which means I'm allowed to drive on it, but the conditions are completely unknown. There might be washouts, there might be fallen trees, anything goes here, and I have no idea how long it's been since another vehicle has come this way. So we drove up pretty far and the road was getting pretty narrow and there was a fallen branch, and without a working e-brake, it's hard for me to stop on a slope like that and then cut the tree branch down. So I decided to reverse back, which was interesting, reversed for maybe half a kilometre, and then just found this spot here where I'm off the road enough and going to continue on foot and check out what this looks like. We're getting conflicting reports about how far we have to actually drive before then we have to start hiking once we reach, it's like a national park type of thing. So yeah, going to continue on foot now for a few kilometres, and you can see this kind of looks like coastal rainforest. This is absolutely beautiful. And let's see how far we can get and how close to this rumoured hot spring we can actually get. Always an adventure, these reconnaissance missions. You never really know whether it's going to be success or have to come back another day, but always learning more and getting closer every time. I always enjoy setting out on foot, and it's a good reminder for me that this is how I got into overlanding in the first place. I would drive my Jeep as far as I could down whatever trail and then set out hiking to get to the destination I was aiming for. Whether it was a hot spring, a waterfall, or a mountain summit, that was kind of irrelevant. It was more about the adventure than the destination. So I've only been walking for about 5 minutes and I already know I made the right choice leaving the Jeep behind. Here I get to, this has obviously been cleared for quad bikes, but the Jeep will not fit through this. I don't carry a chainsaw when I'm out in the backcountry like this. I feel like a chainsaw is a really good way to injure yourself, and it's just not worth it for me when I'm out here like this. And so having a look, I mean, this actually isn't much wider than my hiking poles, which are only, 3.5 feet or something. So I do have a handsaw. I mean, I could cut through these, but probably take me a good hour, I suppose, to make this wide enough. And just looking further up the trail, it looks like kind of a similar scenario. Wherever trees have fallen down, it's been cleared for quad bikes, but not for vehicles as wide as the Jeep. So continue on foot and see what I find. So we've been walking for a bit over an hour now, and we're getting close up to 1,800 meters, which is right at tree line. And I'm pretty happy I didn't bring the Jeep up here, because I think things would be pretty sketchy right now. This is clearly just a quad trail. The trees that have been cut down and all these narrow spots, this is not four-wheel drive accessible anymore. So you can see there are some big mountains still rising up above us. The view down into the valley would be stunning if there weren't so many clouds. We're kind of actually getting into the big fog bank. But onwards and upwards, we think maybe another hour and we'll have a good estimate of what's to come. But we're already thinking we're not going to make it to the hot spring today. It seems pretty unlikely. So just a reconnaissance mission, we'll learn our lessons. Probably have to come back and make this an overnighter, but we'll push on for now. The views in the background are absolutely stunning. Beautiful mountains back there. So yeah, we push on. Here in the mountains, it's always really difficult to predict where the snow line will be at various times of year. So we've made it pretty much as far as we can to the summit here, and this is where the park starts. We're right on the boundary, and you can see the snow starts getting a bit deeper. We did actually walk about another 300 meters. We're right just above 2,000 meters in elevation. The trail goes on, so that means later in the summer, I'm definitely going to come back and have another go at this hot spring. Right now, my GPS says that I'm about 5 kilometers away from the nearest one, and we think maybe there are 2 sources for this hot spring, and the furthest one is about 12 kilometers away. So it kind of makes me think this is a multi-day mission. There's no way that I can day hike that. So maybe next time, bring my tent, bring all my camping gear, and hike in and plan for it to take 3, maybe even 4 days. But this is a really nice little meadow that we got to. This is, we're right on the border of the Alpine. So you can see a little fire ring, picnic table. So who knows, maybe next time when we come back, we'll camp here. And this is really cool. I really enjoy this kind of stuff. I feel like this is just reconnaissance for next time, because you never know what you're gonna get. We've never been up here. We didn't know what condition the trail was in. We didn't know, if the Jeep would make it, which it didn't. So now I know for next time what gear I need to bring and increase my chances of trying to find this hot spring that has been rumored about, but that very, very few people have ever made it to. So yeah, glad to have made it this far. And I think what we're gonna do now is go all the way back down. We'll grab the Jeep and we'll drive around, and we're gonna try and hike up the creek that the hot spring is supposedly on. And that's gonna be a much longer hike, and we think there's a few washouts on the trail. So we don't really know how far we can make it on that one either. But again, it's just reconnaissance, and the creek should be raging right now. There's some waterfalls. So we're gonna go check that out. Until next time though, have to come back to this meadow sometime and camp up here. Looks pretty nice to me. After gaining almost 1,000 meters of elevation on the way up, I turn around and hike all the way back down to the Jeep. Once I extract her from her wilderness parking spot, I drive all the way down to Valley Bottom and then start hiking up the creek to have a look at my chances of access from there. There's only one bridge across this creek, and it's pretty close to the lake, still many kilometers from the rumoured hot spring. So while this bridge is fun to look at, it's definitely not going to help me access the hot spring. So while I didn't make my goal on this trip, I certainly learned a lot about access, and I have a lot to ponder. Should I go back up the abandoned logging road and continue that way, or try to push up this river canyon even though I know the trail is washed out and gets sketchy in a few places? I don't know yet what I'm going to do, but I feel more determined than ever to find out if this hot spring really exists.